What's going on, y'all? I'm KM Best, back for another episode of Rate the Cards. My guest today is Lewis Spencer. He is a former Hearthstone pro under the name of Blackout, back when people used to innovate into Chillwind Yeti, and a current poker grinder with some big wins under his belt. His most recent big win coming in a recent tournament in October where he took home over $300,000. This is a successful poker grinder, and he is here to rate cards in a game he has never played. But between Hearthstone and poker, I kind of wonder if he won't get the gist of Marvel Snap pretty quickly. So, Lewis, how do you think you're going to do in rating these cards, given your overlapping skill sets?
I mean, I have no idea how similar the game is to other TCGs. I mean, I got number one on the arena ladder as well, like 3 years ago.
Dude,
But
same.
I've no, yeah, yeah. I was like going through our old chat the other
Oh,
day.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I have no idea. I mean, I've never played the game, right? I have no idea
Yeah.
what to expect.
So,
So
since you've never played the game, I'm gonna run you through the basics of what Marvel Snap is, right? You're looking at like some cards on the screen right now, and what you can see are just like cards with numbers. They're not particularly meaningful, so I'm just gonna go through and explain what those numbers are and then how the game actually works. So take a look at that first card. That is Angel. It is a 1/2. And that doesn't mean what you think it might mean from Hearthstone terminology. In Marvel Snap, there's no power and toughness. Cards just have point values. So the 1 is the cost, and the 2 is the point value it has, effectively the power. The way you win Marvel Snap is there are 3 locations, and your job is to get the most points on 2 out of those 3 locations. That's the general way that it works. So there's like location 1, location 2, location 3. Your job is to put the most points there. And there are a bunch of cards that can do more things. Like you see at the bottom, there's a card that's a 6/8. 8 is a lot more than 2. Pretty simple, right? Now, all these cards also have effects that influence the board and influence the game. And by a similar token, all the locations also have effects. The locations do stuff, right? So there'll be a location that says, your units here get +1, which makes it more valuable to fill up that location. There are 4 slots at any location. So maximum of 12 slots on the board on your side. 4 slots at location 1, 4 slots at location 2, 4 slots at location 3. Is there anything that was confusing about that to you so far?
no, not really. I mean, I guess you allocate cards into certain. You choose where to allocate the cards to, right? They're not just like
Correct.
auto played into. Okay.
Correct. You choose where to allocate the cards, and then there are the 2 things that set this game apart from other card games. The first is the game automatically ends on turn 6. Whoever is ahead, winning 2 out of 3 locations on turn 6, that's it. That's what happens. You are the winner of the game. The second is the stakes of the game are variable. And this is kind of why I wanted to get a poker player on here, because this is the thing that makes Marvel
Interesting.
Snap a little bit different from the other games, right? Every game you play, you are risking 1 cube. That's like a point. And your opponent is
Yeah.
risking 1 cube. At any point during the game, you can snap, which is a raise, or you can retreat, which is a fold. You can also, this means that games can be worth anywhere from 1 cube if you retreat to 8 cubes if you both snap and stay in until the end of the game. Cubes also double in what people call the showdown. We stole that terminology. On the final turn of the game goes from being worth 1 cube to 2 cubes. You can snap, it goes up to 4. You can snap, it goes up to 8. The stakes double on the final turn. So this snapping mechanic is the thing it borrows the most from poker, and part of why I'm kind of wondering, as a poker slash Hearthstone guy, if you're not a little bit overqualified to actually figure this out pretty fast.
It's funny. The gambling thing, I think, is most similar to backgammon.
Yes.
Actually, I know like backgammon is you get to pick whether to double the stakes or not, stuff like that. I've never actually played it. I just have friends that do. But
All right.
so what part of the game do you get to pick when to double? Is it like a
At
specific?
any
I
point,
assume it's.
you
Oh,
can
so it's not like a
choose to
fixed state
snap.
in the game.
No, there's no fixed state. You can choose to snap on any turn of the game, your opponent can choose whether to stay in at the doubled stakes or to re-raise you, but they can also choose to snap at any point in the game. So like it's turn 3, you snap, okay. It's turn 5, they snap back. That means something different, right? So,
Yeah.
but you
That makes
only get
sense.
one each game. You can't just like keep going and going and going and going.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Is there like a mana? There's like a mana system, I
Yes,
assume.
there
That's
is.
what the blue.
It's exactly like Hearthstone. You get one
Yeah,
on
yeah,
one, 2-on-2, etc., going up and up and up until you have 6-on-6, and that is the final turn of the game.
yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
All right. Is there anything else? Do you feel like you have as much of a handle as anyone can have on this game, having had it just explained to you in 5 minutes by a guy with the
Yeah,
worst mustache you've ever seen?
probably within a 5-minute radius of conversation.
Yeah. Yep. That's how this works. You have to like this is all you get. So if you have any questions, this is the time. This is what you're gonna have. We're gonna jump in from here. We're gonna jump in. You ready?
Yep.
This is the first card on the docket today. It is Angel, a 1/2, and when one of your cards is destroyed, this flies out of the deck to replace it. It shows up on your board where the card that died was.
Hmm. Interesting. I feel like these cards in Magic are normally pretty good because you're normally just getting a resource. Any card where you're like getting a resource from your deck for free, I feel like historically in card games has been just pretty good.
Oh wait.
Um,
Oh wait, hold on. I actually forgot to clarify something earlier in the video. Decks are 12 cards. One copy
okay.
of each thing. There you go.
Yeah, I should.
Important.
I realized that when I was
Yes.
saying I was talking about this. I was like, I have no idea how big the
Yes.
decks are in this game.
Yes, I realized it as you were talking about it too. Decks are 12
Yeah.
cards, one copy of each card. So no
Everything's a
like
one of.
yeah, everything's a one of. So it's basically like imagine Magic with no energy but like 48 or no mana,
Yeah.
48 cards. It's the same kind of
Very. It's very
split.
different.
But
Yeah.
you're not pulling 4 of these out. And nor would you
Yeah.
want to, actually.
Yeah.
Because you
Well,
are limited on space.
This card would be pretty sick in Magic.
Oh my
But,
god. Yeah. This card would be pretty sick in Magic. It would be free, yes.
yeah. Yeah. Then I guess this card is bad. It has to be.
Yeah? Why?
If you're only playing 12 cards, I'm not sure if like milling is a feature of this game. Like I know like different card game developers have different stances on like milling as an overall game strategy. Having a card in your deck where when you're only playing 12 one-ofs, like when its main feature is, I assume you are gonna want to play a card on one every single turn, and you're not gonna want to have many one costs in your deck overall.
Yeah, no, that's exactly correct. I'll just
Yeah.
give this one to you. You're like logicking through stuff without having the full picture, and I think that's good. I will also say, there is one other bit of this that is important to note, I think, but I just want to focus on what you got right here, which is you do not want to be playing a lot of one costs in Marvel Snap. And
Yeah.
that is a very notable thing here. And then one other bit of detail that you might need in the future, you draw 3 cards to start the game, draw 1 card each turn. So you're seeing 9 out of your 12 cards most games.
Is there a mulligan system?
No.
Okay, so you just get what you're given.
Yeah, if there was a mulligan system, I think the game would be like significantly more broken than it is. But
Yeah, of course. The mulligans, I think, direct games into like a lot more gold fishing happens when you can dictate the state of your turn one.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I would guess 12. I would imagine like you probably want to be playing 2 cards a turn on average, like towards the later state of the game. I'd like imagine turn 1, turn 2, you want to just be playing 1. So like on turn 3, I just can't ever imagine that you would ever just want to like play this card from your deck. Like I feel like you just never want to draw this card, reading the text on it. Like it just doesn't seem
that
like
is
it does
exactly correct. And that is the major issue that this card has. Is like by turn 3, you're 50% to have drawn it, and if you draw it, it sucks.
Yeah.
So I've got some numbers to throw at you here. I went and actually, I don't normally do this. I went and looked up the stats for all the cards I'm going to ask you about. Post Infinite, which is like, legend rank, and high collection level, which is like people who
Yeah.
have all the cards, basically. This is the worst card in the game statistically. It has a 17% win rate and a 0.69, oh, I'm sorry, a negative 0.69 cube rate, meaning just putting this in your deck is going to lose you so many games so consistently. Arguably the single worst card in the game. Statistically, it currently is.
That is incredibly bad. Yeah. I mean,
Very
it
bad.
makes sense. I feel like if you're playing if you're playing Magic or something, and you're playing some game with a 60 card deck, and you can like this card is gonna get exponentially better the more cards you have in your deck. But like in a game where your deck is 12 cards, I don't think this can ever be good.
It also gets better in games where like the units you have on the board are resources you can trade for other resources. Right? Like
Yeah,
in Hearthstone, this would be patches adjacent because you could value trade it. Or not even value trade it, you
and
could use it to remove your opponent's resources for free, but there's no mechanic for that in this game.
in Hearthstone this would be like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, this card would be insanely good.
Yeah. But in a game like this, there's no mechanic for trading units for units. They're just on the
Yeah.
board. There's no attrition like that. And so Angel's like a card that a lot of new players, I think, fall into this trap with because it's like, it looks like a card that would be good in a lot of other games, but it's absolutely not in the game like Marvel Snap.
Yeah, it's like a TCG bait.
Yes.
It's definitely a card if you're coming from Magic, you would look at it and think it's good, or you're coming from Hearthstone, you'd look at it and think it's good.
Yep. All
Because
right.
like you've been playing some form of Zoo deck or whatever in either game, or like Mono Red or
Yeah.
something, and you just have this card that is essentially a free resource.
This is Havoc. He is one of the newest cards in the game, Marvel Snap. He costs 2, has 0 power, but at the end of each turn, you lose an energy, that's your mana, and it gains 4 power.
Oh man, I should have clarified if like
Continue. No, you can clarify now. It's fine.
you have like unit removal spells in this game.
They are not so much like there's no Doomblade.
There's no like
There's
point and click. Yeah,
Yeah, that's not a thing. You can remove things. There are things that negate effects. There are things that like return gained power to 0. There are things that kill things that are too big. There are things like that. But there's no
yeah,
point and click Doomblade. Every card is a unit, and Doomblade on a card would probably be the strongest card they've ever printed.
yeah. That's what I was gonna say. Because obviously this card would be absolutely unplayable if anything like that existed. I feel like, given that you're permanently losing a resource, I I assume you are permanently losing a resource by the way it's worded, but I'm not
You
entirely
are
sure.
correct. You are permanently
Um,
losing a resource. But I mean, like, it can also eat empty ones. So like if you use all your energy on turn 6, it'll still eat your empty ones and it'll be a 2/4. That's what it'll do.
Yeah, this card seems very bad, I would guess. I feel like you would never want to play it on turn 2. Um, Purely because I feel like the turns 3 through 6 would be so bricked that you would just never be able to recover from an opponent has the ability to play multiple cards per turn. The only scenario I can imagine is if you are playing some deck of like entirely low cost cards. And then this card kind of becomes okay because I guess it just functions as an all-in
Yeah.
for one of the boards. So I guess it's like a kind of niche uh swing card in some decks, but I can't imagine it would be something. It also is one of these cards that I guess could very easily be manipulated by other cards. Like I'm sure there is like potentially some sort of stacking effect for power gain in the game. Not entirely sure from never having seen the game before in my life. but like if there's any sort of synergies, I'm sure you could run it in some sort of synergy deck. Yeah, I don't know. I would guess it's like some sort of niche card in like a what would be classed as like a zoo deck in other games, but I don't think it would be one of the better cards in the game.
You are correct. Here's the part where I throw some numbers at you. Havoc has a 45.5% win rate and a 6.9% play rate. He recently came out, so he's actually one of the more commonly played cards in the game. But as people experiment with him, they're not doing anything particularly good. He has a negative 0.2 cube rate, so just your average game you're queuing up with Havoc, you play 5 games of Havoc, you're on average going to be down a cube. That's not good.
Yeah, it's pretty
Um,
bad.
you're correct about the places that you would use him, and he tends to go in like what you would call a zoo deck that is using a lot of cheap stuff that scales up. You're also correct, you never play him on turn 2 because you can't go through the entire game with 2 energy. He tends to be played on turn 5 or 6. Played on turn
Yeah,
5, he's a 2/8. Played on turn 6, he's a 2/4. And like those are fine numbers, especially the 2/8 is pretty good. And there are synergy things that you can do with him, but nothing that doubles up on his effect. There's nothing that's like also getting bonuses from what he does. It's
yeah,
pretty much just
yeah.
like making him a little bit bigger is kind of how most of the synergies with him work, like setting his base power a little higher, so he'll be like a 210 or a 211 on turn 5
Yeah,
instead.
there's no like anthem effects. Then yeah,
There are anthem effects, but they are not what you play with him, basically.
yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it looks like one of those janky cards that a streamer would be trying out and is just ends up being bad. I feel
Yeah,
like
that's a fair description of the guy, I think. Yes.
yeah.
All right.
Permanently losing resources, I feel like is very hard to make good in almost every game.
They tried. Like he is above curve on 5, like by a significant
Yeah.
margin. A 2/8 is like that's good. That's good numbers. They tried. But
Yeah.
I don't know what numbers they would have to put on him for him to be good, but I don't think it's these numbers.
Looks like one of yeah, I feel like from playing other games, this card would either be like completely cracked or just be like or just be bad. Like I feel like
Yeah.
it's very, very hard to hit like a sweet spot with stuff like this.
It's either going to be the numbers are too big and so he's oppressive, or the numbers are too small and so he's terrible. There's no middle ground.
Yeah. The only equivalence I even have in my brain is the 4 mana 7/7 overload from
Yeah.
Hearthstone.
Yes. Either
Which
incredible or
was
unplayable. Yes.
it was like cracked forever in the decks it was good in, yeah. Like,
Flame Wreathed Faceless, I believe. I
yeah,
believe that's the name of 4 mana 7/7.
something like that.
Next up is Omega Red. We've talked a lot about how Marvel Snap has 3 locations and your job is to win 2 of them. So obviously, there are plenty of cards that project your power from one location onto other locations. Omega Red is a 4/5 ongoing. Ongoing is just an effect that continues to happen, it's just a perpetual effect. If you're ahead by 10 power here on this location, it gives +4 power to your other locations.
Okay. The first thing I thought of when I saw this card, I don't know how is Snap with like you have like deck trackers and things.
Yeah,
Like, do you know roughly when you're queuing at high rank what other people are playing?
there's a lot of value of surprise in Snap
Yeah.
because of the way the cube system works, right? Like 1 win
Yeah,
for
it
8
makes
cubes can be
sense.
very valuable. So you can know the general archetype without knowing the specific tech cards that someone has in there, the specific cards that might blow
Yeah.
you out, what they've done to customize for a specific matchup. And that does come into play. I would say most of the time, a few turns in, I have a good idea. And early in the game, based on like one card, I can normally guess the archetype, but not the specifics.
Yeah, because this is a card I feel like would suffer massively if people knew that it was in your deck. Um, I my initial thought when I looked at it is that it looks like a Winmore card, and historically, I feel like Winmore cards have been bad. I don't really have a general gauge of how good certain strategies are in the game right now. Like, I don't, I've never played the game, obviously, but I there are metas I can imagine this card would be completely unplayable in. I'm sure if there's some like Zerg meta, this could be playable. If like, it seems like it would just be like a 6 out of 10 or something. Like I don't. It looks like it could be incredible in the right deck and just like complete garbage in everything else. Like I feel like if you're in some meta game where like you're curving out really low, and then you're just slamming this, it seems like it would be okay. But the problem is, I guess from the wording of it, it looks like you have to play it onto the board state where you're already winning, which I feel like hurts it a lot, I guess. But I'm not entirely sure. It looks pretty mediocre, but
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to a specific sentence you said during that, which was, "It looks like there'll be a lot of metas where this card is unplayable." Right? So far that is every meta that has ever existed in the game Marvel Snap. This card has never, ever, ever even been close to good. It has been complete booty basically every single step of the way. Omega Red currently 46% win rate, 0.3% play rate. It's a card that's been out for a while. People just don't even try anymore. And a negative 0.14% cube rate. It is not good, and your win more thing is basically why. This is a card that also has face-up requirements, right? So as long as your opponent knows you're doing it, they're just like, oh, well, you can't win that one by 10 anymore, and then it does nothing. It's just doing nothing.
That's kind of what I referred to at the start. I feel like if someone just knows you have it in your deck, like it's a status effect as well. It's not even like a when played effect. Oh,
Correct.
that's so bad.
It's if they ever flip that lane.
Yeah,
if they ever
I
flip
had it
that
in
lane.
my mind that it was like when you play this, it was like a on play effect, not like a status effect.
That's it. There's two types of effects.
Very different.
Two types of keyworded effects in Marvel Snap: on reveal and ongoing.
I guess ongoing is a status effect. Yeah,
Correct.
I probably should have gathered that.
I think I actually said it, but I'll give you the out. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like if they change the wording to if you're ahead by 10 power on one board, this card would probably be very good.
If he was on reveal and it was just like, if you're ahead by 10 right now, he'd be very good. Yeah, I think that's actually true. Okay, I got a similar card for you. This is Miss Marvel. Same stat line, same type of ongoing effect, but a little bit differently coded. Adjacent locations where your cards have unique costs have +5 power.
Okay, so you basically always have to play this on the board in the middle, I assume.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what she does. She's very much a middle card.
Your cards have unique costs. So
Meaning, like 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop.
2 drop. Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
Also, zeros don't count.
I didn't even know there was 0 cost.
No, like not zeros don't count. Like empty locations. That doesn't count.
Okay.
0 doesn't count.
Yeah. It seems like too specific of a requirement for not enough of a payoff. It seems just okay. I don't know. I mean, judging from the one other card I've seen that's a 4 cost, I guess 4/5 is like what would be classed as like a vanilla power to mana cost in
vanilla
this game.
Is 4/6 actually.
4/6. Okay, so this card's under curve. So I mean, it just seems like the payoff just isn't enough for how specific the requirement is.
Okay, so here's where you are the wrongest you've been so far, and I take a little bit of credit to this because I put them back to back so that I could trick you with at least one of them. That was the whole point of this. This is the best card in the game, probably. Because you read her as a 4/5, you're like, oh, that's under curve. She's actually just a 4/15. Like, she's a 4/5, and then 5 on the other lanes too, almost all the time. Any deck that plays her is going to be able to pull that off. She is just actually a 4/15. Her requirement is so much more within your control than Omega Red's requirement. Omega Red has this neon sign that says, you can stop me by doing this. you can't make your opponent, for the most part, have different cost cards than they do. So if you're playing like a typical mid-range deck where you're just like, I'm playing one card every turn, this is a 415 because you're playing a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's what you're doing. And she is a 415, and she is they nerfed some other cards. Right now, I would say she is the single best stat stick in the game in terms of power to cost ratio. She is the best.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. I guess if curving out is just the meta, then this card just becomes insane. Yeah, which makes sense.
She makes curving out the meta. Like, she's the
Yeah,
reason you would build a deck like that. Because, like, again, we talked about how vanilla is 4-6. She's 2.5 of that. It's nuts. She drastically outscales other things at her cost, and she is probably the most influential card in the current metagame.
Sick. Was very, very wrong.
Yeah, I am a bit of a as a host, I feel like my job is to challenge you, but as a person, I kind of just want to see you get some wrong. Like I gotta feel the juice.
It's hard to tell what's gonna be good in I guess 12. I guess I feel like a game where your deck is 12 cards, it's gonna be very difficult to make anything that isn't curving out the meta game. I would guess.
I don't
just from never having played the game.
I would say that's probably not true. What you are close on though is I think most Marvel Snap decks tend to do similar things. It's not necessarily always curving out, but it is very focused on getting the most for what you spend.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like when you only have 12 cards and 6 turns, you like resource efficiency just matters so much more than like and like any other metric in the game for cards.
Yep.
Like you just pick whatever the best ratio for mana is and just throw them all on a deck and you can probably go okay. I mean, this is obviously I've never played the game, so I'm
you actually like
complete nonsense, but like
no, there have been two kinds of really broken cards in Marvel Snap so far. There are cards that are too big for their costs, and there are cards that make other things too big for their costs, right? So like cards that give discounts and cards that do buffs, and then just like cards that are really big, and she's just cards that are big. Yes, like Marvel Snap has more decks in Marvel Snap are similar. They're trying to accomplish the same goal, which is a lot of points, but they accomplish it in different ways, and that's what gives the game, dynamism. Like, it's not like there's no combo decks in here. It's just the combo decks are also trying to achieve the end result of a lot of points.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like it's a difficult system to make work well. Like if there's you're not having like the whole like combo like there's no like board state kind of. There's no like trading back and forth.
There's no trading. Like, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that makes it like very hard to.
There's definitely interaction though. Like one of the things
manipulate certain functions in the game. Like you're not getting like the old I think about Hearthstone. Like you're not getting any of like the handlock nonsense where people are comboing you from 30 and stuff like that. Like
absolutely correct. Like there is no priest in this game. It cannot exist.
A lot of the functions of like what would or even like magic, you're not getting like
blue-black control.
Yeah, just stuff like that.
There's no attrition. There's no attrition strategies. Those don't exist. There are combo decks, but those combo decks result in a lot of points the same way a normal deck would, but just more, right?
Yeah, I would just it just seems like a system. When your system is time-based, I feel like it makes it so that control can't exist as an archetype. At least in a traditional. At least in a traditional sense in card games.
Yeah, there's no draw go. That's not a thing. That can't be a thing. This is Zabu. 2/2, ongoing, perpetual effect. Your 4-cost cards cost 1 less.
This card seems kind of cracked. I don't know. Playing this on 2 and then playing a 4-cost on 3 just seems insane. Would be my initial. Like, I'm guessing it's understated for the mana cost, but I feel like this effect. I feel like the effect is insanely good from initial look.
Yeah, you are correct. I'm not even gonna let you keep going on that one. You're just right. That's correct. Zabu is probably one of the 5 or 6 most played cards in the game. I'm going to throw some numbers at you, and keep in mind, this has a 25.6% play rate. 25% of the
Yeah,
decks
that's
after
crazy.
Infinite are playing this guy. 51% win rate, despite being 25% of the metagame, and a positive 0.07 cube rate. He is, yeah, he's pretty cracked. He's a very, very, very good card. And I just showed you a broken 4-drop, and now you can sort of see what the curve out decks start to look like.
Yeah.
That's not, I don't even think they're necessarily the best decks in the game. There's like a million different decks that do different things, but you're getting a sense of at least what the curve out archetypes start to look like. Zabu and
Those
Miss Marvel, that happens.
those sound like kind of problematic numbers, to be honest. Like
I will tell
26% of
you,
decks and then like a positive win rate. Like,
yes. It's I will tell you that's not even the highest play rate card on this list. I will give you extra points. The points don't matter. It's whose line is it anyway, but I
yeah.
will give you extra points if you can identify the card on here that is actually the most played card post Infinite. I will give you extra points for that.
Well, I mean, mana reduction cards are just, again, I feel like something that are very, very hard to make balanced in any game. Like, especially ones you just slam on curve.
Okay, I got a better
Like, you
one
just,
for you. Do you want me to tell you
okay.
what this was before it was nerfed?
Oh, it got, was it
Oh
like a
yeah.
two, was it a 2/3 or something? Or they
It was a
cost 2 less?
3-2. So it cost
Okay.
one more, but the discount was 2.
Okay, that's insane. Then, yeah, because then you just slam it on curve and play 2/4
Yes.
costs on 4.
It's literally
Yeah.
what you did. It was very dumb. It was extremely dumb. We don't need to even get into minutia, but basically it would pay
Yeah.
for itself immediately and then keep giving you more and more dividends. It's remembered as
Yeah,
one of the best
that's
cards there ever was.
crazy. Yeah.
Even the nerfed version is still a very, very powerful and influential card when curving out can be the metagame. And there has honestly been like several months where you like cannot play a deck with this guy reasonably because there are just so many decks that are really good against curve out strategies. But
Yeah.
when it's good, this guy is why.
Yeah, this just seems like an auto include in any deck that would be classed as mid range, like
Yep.
ever.
He is the mid-range definer, I think.
Enabler,
Yeah.
the whole enabler of the deck. Yeah.
Yeah. Meet Ravona Renslayer. She was actually recently buffed into this state. She is a 2/3 ongoing. Your cards with 1 or less power cost 1 less.
Oh, this is a hard one because I feel like there may be some like cracked like this. I feel like this card heavily depends on if there's like some cracked 3 cost with no with or cracked 4 cost with 0 power. Because if there is, this card could probably be okay because again you would just slam it on curve and just curve out. I would guess cards with 0 power generally don't end up in the curve out decks though, which I feel like would make this card bad. Like, I feel like the cards that you're playing with 0 power. Oh, I don't know. This is a really hard one to evaluate when you don't know the whole library.
Yes.
Um,
You have identified why I put it on here.
yeah,
Trying to get you.
this is like a very yeah, because there might just be some like dumb card that like ends the game or something, and you just
Mhm.
play it. You just Exodia people or whatever. But um, the problem is this card I guess is always going to be niche, like basically always. Like it's not going to be an auto include, so it can never be that good. Um, from the cards I've seen so far, I feel like the cards with 1 or less power haven't been very good. So I'm gonna lean towards this is bad at the moment, but has the potential to be good in the future.
I think that's roughly accurate. Ravona is a card that is used in decks that are like similar in form to the Zabu deck that we talked about. It's the same sort of thing, except it's a lot more limited in scope because you need to be using these specific cards that have like good abilities but have 0 power, and so you're using them for their abilities, things like that. She's also an enabler in multiple types of combo decks where you can use her to just accelerate too much power onto the board. But she's not
Yeah,
exactly generally applicable the same way Zabu is. She's not like an archetype core the same way. And you can see that in her numbers. She actually has a very high play rate right now, relatively speaking, 16.2% of decks post infinite. But her win rate is 48.3%, and her cube rate is negative 0.04%. So she's being played a lot, but not in a lot of things that are wildly effective. It's a card that I think an analogy I'll use for you is it's okay, do you remember Treasure Map from Magic the Gathering?
yeah, very well, yeah.
It was a very good card, but it was played in like just the world's largest amount of bad decks. It was jank glue. And
Yeah, it
like
was just
that's what this
it
is.
was like every single homebrew
Yes.
garbage deck, or people would just throw it in the sideboard and stuff. It was yeah, I was gonna say I feel like this is a card you'd never be like too thrilled to just slam on the board.
Yeah.
Like with no and like cards like that, I feel like from at least my experience of card games have just never been too good.
She's
Um
dangerous, honestly. Like she
yeah,
is a card that like they probably do have to keep an eye on at this cost.
I
But
was gonna say I feel like this is a card they could just print something and it would just become busted though. Like
yeah, it's
is
it's it's right now best used in multiple. There are like two specific combo decks that use it very well. And
yeah.
that is the thing though, because like those combo decks are the kind of thing that like if no one is expecting them, they can be good, and then if people are expecting them, it's very not good. And right now, one of those combo decks really broke out and just has a huge target on its back, which is probably why her play rate is so high, but her win rate is so low and her cube rate is so
Yeah.
low because people are playing the combo deck, but everyone's prepared for it now, and
I
so
mean
she's just kind of getting
48
eaten alive.
I was gonna say I think 48% is like about generally where cards are when they're just like fine. I
Yeah.
feel like this card could never it's never a card that could have over a 50% win rate unless there was just some completely busted deck. Like
Yeah, I think that's that. Like, it's a card that probably shouldn't ever have above
yeah,
50%
yeah,
win
yeah.
rate because if
Like
it does,
there's
it
like
means some weird things are happening. Yes.
there's been a serious problem in like the game design department
Yeah.
if this card gets allowed to be unchecked.
Here is Leech, 5 cost, 3 power. At the start of turn 6, remove all abilities from cards in your opponent's hand. And in case you were unaware of this, yes, drastically below curve.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of has to be with that
Right.
with that ability. Uh, wow, this is a very hard one to evaluate. I kind of just want to. I kind of just want to believe it's good just for that art. The art. Um.
Wait, that's so, I have so many sick variants of all these cards. Variants are like art skins. I've been specifically showing you the base ones so you couldn't make determinations, but you look at this guy and you're like, yeah, that art rocks. Let's
Yeah, he's
go.
just a little green dude with a beanie on.
He's the only
Looks
guy
like he
with
should
my
be
fashion sense.
looks like he should be working in like a coffee shop.
Hell yeah, dude.
Um. I. I mean, I feel like if this card was in Magic, it would be a sideboard card. Is like the best analogy I can give. Like there are going to be games where this is complete trash, and like loses you the game having it in your hand. And there are going to be certain decks where this is like completely cracked against and just wins you the game. Um, I feel like in a game with no sideboard mechanic, I don't know. Is there a sideboard mechanic in
Nope.
this game? I don't think so, right? You're just playing best of one ladder. I feel like in a game with no sideboard mechanic, this card is very, very hard for it to be good as a default. But there are like meta games where I can imagine you would start running it. Um,
So,
but then it's one of those cards where if people know that it's being run, then the meta shifts and stuff. So I feel like I would lean towards it being bad as a default, but
it's actually right now and has been in the past one of the strongest cards in the entire game.
Really, yeah. I mean, it makes sense. It
You can
looks like
see
a
it,
card that can
right?
be completely cracked. Yeah.
Yeah. So right now, here's some numbers. 6.2% play rate, 55.1% win rate,
Yeah, that's crazy.
0.21% cube rate. And here's actually, this is something that I wanted to bring up with you as a poker guy, right? Because remember, the game ends on turn 6, and that's when the stakes double. And so you can just leave right then. And this
On
thing
the stakes
happens.
double. Oh
This,
yeah, I didn't even take that into account.
right. So, like, this guy has immense win rate, but a lot of that is because he's forcing your opponents out for low stakes because they see him. He gets rid of all their abilities, and they're like, oh, well, I have no way to win the game now. Goodbye.
Yeah,
So, like,
it's
he,
definitely a card that just. This is why I was saying I feel like it can just end the game on the spot.
yes.
Like, yeah,
So, like, this is a card I wanted to, like, specifically bring to your attention as a poker guy because he's his win rate is absurd because he's not winning all that high in terms of, the pot. He wins a lot of small pots. He's like
yeah.
a small pot crusher. Like, that's what this guy does. That's his best
I
utility.
mean, yeah. I do feel like this card can never be. It can never be too played, right? Though is the problem, I guess. Like having 6% play rate. I feel like if this card just started having like 20%, the entire meta would shift and the card would become bad.
So that's happened before. But it's actually just a lot harder to get good numbers out of your cards when they don't do anything. Like, this
Interesting.
is like a lot of, like, we showed you Miss Marvel, right? Imagine
Yeah,
you're trying to play Miss Marvel and another 4-drop on your final turn of the game because you have a Zabu, right? You're using a three
yeah,
and a three, right? They just don't do anything. That goes from a 4-15 to a 4-5, right? There's a lot of cards like that, right? Like, the vanilla cards in this game do not do a lot of things that spread power across multiple lanes. And so
yeah.
you almost everything that spreads power across multiple lanes at the same time is going to be an ability. And
I
that
guess
is what he's good at dealing with.
I guess the power of this card heavily depends on how easy it is for the game to effectively be over before turn 5
It's
in
not
terms of
very
board state.
easy for the game to be over before turn 5. Like, it
Yeah,
can happen,
which
but like that turn 6 when the stakes double, like that's what it's about. That's what the game is about a lot of the time.
yeah,
And so that's why Leech is such an interesting topic for you as a poker player because he forces your opponents out, and there's like some equity in giving your opponents the idea that they could still win because that wins you more cubes. That said, his win rate is so high that it's just like, yeah, it's probably a good idea to play him anyway. He's too good. But there are situations where, like, once people are adapted to Leech, he suddenly starts becoming like maybe an 8-cube loser instead of like a 2-cube winner, and that's
yeah.
ugly.
Yeah. I mean, I initially read the play effect and was like, "Wow, this is broken." Like
Would you believe that it
it's
used to
like
be a play effect?
incredibly. It's like incredibly. Yeah, that was what I mean. I like read it. I read it at first, and
Yeah.
and then I like remembered,
No,
but I was like,
it used to
it
be
really.
it used to be an on reveal, and it was very broken.
Surely that was just the best card in the game. Then yeah, that just
Yeah,
seems insane.
yeah, it used to be an on reveal. You could cheat it out, or you could like throw it into a like there was like a card that shuffled the card you put into it into your deck and got you out another card. And so you just play him, get his dumb on reveal, and then convert him into something better. And it was just like, oh, that's really dumb. Like, you removed all the cards, all the abilities from their cards, and you didn't pay a tax in terms of playing like an undercosted guy or an overcosted three power guy.
Yeah,
It was very dumb. It was a very dumb time.
seems insane. Yeah, yeah. It's not. I will say it's not surprising to me that this card is very good.
It is surprising to me just how good it is. Like, those numbers, 55% win rate, that's one of the
55%
highest
is.
in the game, if not
I
the
was gonna
highest.
say 55% is like very very hard
Yes.
to, because you gotta remember like you always just have people playing troll decks that are like tanking every
No,
card's
no,
win
no, no.
rate
This is
like
55% like at legend,
across the
effectively.
board. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, that's not like people screwing around. There are some people screwing around, but like 6% play rate, 55% win rate at legend. That's some real numbers.
Yeah, that's like again, that's like problematic territory, like for it
I
to be
think it
so
honestly
high.
is, yeah. So let's get into a couple of 6-turn cards, which are, again, we're getting into the meat of this. The part of this I really wanted to address as a, you're a poker guy. The stakes double on turn 6. That adds some extra importance to 6-drops.
Yeah.
This is a Lith. 6/2. Low power. On reveal, destroy all unrevealed enemy cards here.
Okay, what does unrevealed mean in this context?
When you play cards, they are placed face down and then flipped face up based on who is currently winning the game. So the way this guy works is if you are winning the game and you play this and your opponent plays something on the same lane, you win. That's what he basically reads.
Okay. Wow. So I guess in the context of 6-drops, the turn 6 being worth more than all of your other turns in like a vacuum would help win more cards specifically, and I guess this is like the ultimate win more card. So I guess this card is, I mean, it's like very, very win more, I guess.
It's extremely win more, yes. You are correct about that.
And the fact that it's 2 cost, like 2 power even, is, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter that much. You kind of just win one of your boards by default if you slam this. This is a really hard card to evaluate. I'm gonna lean towards it being bad, but I'm not confident whatsoever in that read.
I think you would be incorrect in saying that. So
It's
Aliyah
insane.
it's not insane. It's just good,
fine.
right? This is a card I would compare to Leroy Jenkins in Hearthstone, as weird as that might sound. Like it's only ever good in this spot, but there is nothing better at doing what it does. So I looked up some stats on it on a different stats website, and it has the highest played win rate in the game by like
that's
an enormous volume, right?
I was gonna say that's not that unsurprising, right?
Yes.
Like this is like the text could just read like win this board.
Yeah.
From at least from my understanding of
That's
the game.
More or less. Like there's some exceptions, right? But more or less that is what it reads, right?
Yeah.
And so you only ever play it when it's going to win. And it literally just doesn't even work. Like, there are no unrevealed enemy cards if you're losing the game. So literally, like, it is the most win more card they have ever made. But it still manages to fulfill its role because in Marvel Snap, win more is actually like an archetype. Like, it's actually a thing.
That's why I feel like the gambling aspect of the game is the facet that changes that, right? Like
Correct.
that's what makes those cards viable in a sense.
So I'm going to throw some numbers at you. Aliyah, 15% play rate, 51.2% win rate, and a 0.14% cube rate, which is to say, comparing back to Miss Marvel, it has a lower win rate, a lower play rate, but a higher cube rate, because the surprise value of a turn 6 card, if you're not expecting to play around this guy, you get demolished if you don't expect him to show up.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, in my mind, I was like, I had this as like a 4 out of 10, but I guess it's like closer to like a 6.5.
It's probably a little higher. Like, it's a really good card.
Okay,
yeah, it's like an S7 or an 8, I think, right now. Like, it's niche, but it's a very dangerous card because there's these like mind games of, do I play around this or do I play around literally anything else?
Yeah, it's just such a blowout effect.
Yep.
That it's a really hard one to evaluate.
Yeah. Here's another big 6-drop. This is the Blob. For the record, he's the reason I have this mustache. I
was gonna say I really want this card to be good.
I did like the goal is Blob cosplay. That was my sub goal, and the reason I did that is because check out how small I can make my chin. I
Yeah, I've
pull
been
this
doing
off.
that for like, I feel like
I
I've been doing that for like the last like 2 years in
Oh my
America.
god, look at
Jesus.
me. I'm nailing it. But he's also very strong. I have a big bench, like that kind of thing. Look at the muscles, look at the
Yeah.
fat. That's me. That's what I do. Merge your deck into this and gain its total power. He eats the cards in your deck and he gets whatever they have.
Okay, this as I really want this card to be good because I just love like the art and the character so much. Um, this just seems like a bad version of the last card. Is what my read on it would be. It's just a. I feel like the text just reads, win one of the boards.
Dude, that's actually
Um,
crazy. Like that pisses me off. That pisses me off because you're 100% right, except it's a good
yeah.
version of the last card.
Oh, really?
Like, yes, you are
Oh, that's
100%
surprising.
right, except this one works when you don't have priority too. So like like the other one only works when there
Uh,
are unrevealed cards. This one works when there is anything, right?
okay, yeah,
So
that makes a lot more sense.
his
Yeah.
play rate is 12.9%, 52.6% win rate, and 0.12 plus 0.12 cube rate. So yeah, he's if you're in the market for these guys, like if you're in the market for winning one lane, these are the guys that do it. And that's
Yeah,
pretty
wow, I
much it.
wasn't even considering priority actually when I was like looking at these cards, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
priority is
guess that
basically just like
changes it quite a lot.
I'm gonna run through this because I thought you understood it. I just want to make sure. But like whoever's winning the game, their cards flip up first.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I gathered that from the discussion,
Okay.
purely from the discussion we had about the last card.
Yeah, that's really
But
one of the
like
only
I'm just
cards where
saying
that really matters. But yeah.
when I was like thinking when I was like evaluating this card, I wasn't even like thinking about it
Oh yeah.
in the like priority having any context at all. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean this you just being able to slam this when you don't have priority, I guess would make it a lot better. Yeah.
It's not like a
Yeah,
lot better. But
it's
he's
just like
just
a
bit
bit.
hell.
It's like a pit, like a
Yeah.
pit bear. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's just big as hell. Like he's in decks that were previously running Alioth and looking to like lock down one lane and then go use the Alioth to win another lane. Now they're doing that and then going and using Blob to win another lane. Like that's pretty much how these cards play out. You try to guarantee that you have one lane one and then you play your big beater in lane number 2. And Blob is
Yeah.
slightly better at that by my estimation than Alioth is currently because he is less restricted and because like sometimes he's just like a 650 and it's like, well, that's just arbitrarily large.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to overlook the less restrictions
Yeah.
overall. Even if the cards were like completely similar, like if they were exactly the same card, but this card just had less, you could just play it without priority. It would just be just better by quite a distance,
Would
I
you
guess.
believe that Alioth used to not care about priority? It was literally just every card they played there died.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds broken.
It
No,
was pretty
I
good.
can believe it. That's a very Ben Brode card to put in the game.
They do it
They
every so often. There's just like every
they
so
love
often they just like blow the doors off something. The weird thing
they
about
love
like
just trimming something that's just completely broken and just like torturing everyone for 2 weeks. Yeah.
the weird bit about it though is like it wasn't even that good. Like it was good, right? But it's still only one lane. It was just like a really
Yeah.
unfun play experience. It was just like the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
Everyone hated
It's
it.
yeah. There's no way that could be fun in any way. Yeah.
It was so not fun. And so it's just like, does my entire turn 6 get deleted here? I hope not. Whatever. And so then they added the extra lever to play against it, which was introducing whether or not you had priority as to a major impact of whether or not the card was good. So
Yeah,
Blob
that
then
makes a
came
lot of
out, and
sense.
that's why Blob is being played right now. Because a lot of those Alioth decks, it's like, all right, well, I'll just play a giant guy now. That's cool.
Yeah, makes sense.
Ultron, 6'8". On reveal, deploy 4 1-power drones to each other location. So this guy is a way of saying, like, look, you didn't use the space on your board. You get some dudes there now. Enjoy the, like, you can do whatever else it is you want, but here are some dudes. Enjoy them.
My initial thought looking at the card was it seems just pretty good. Like you're getting what 16 16 power for a 6 cost,
If
which
you
is
have
like I
not
don't.
played any cards on the other locations, yes, it's 16.
Oh, you only get. Oh, right.
There's a
Oh,
location, there's a
this.
limit, right? So
Oh,
if it,
yeah.
yeah,
I wasn't sure if like tokens applied to the.
they do. You get 4
Oh,
spots on
this
each
card
location.
just this card's just like a 1 out of 10 then, right? It just seems terrible.
Yeah, you're right. This
Yeah.
dude sucks. He is.
There's no way this card
There
can
are
be
some
good.
ways to make him make sense, right? There are cards that buff tokens, right? Or I
Yeah.
should say, cards that buff, every unit. There's anthem effects, right? So
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
in theory like your anthem deck finisher, because not only are there cards that buff specifically the drones, like the 1 cost cards. There are cards that buff 1 cost cards. There are cards that buff cards with no abilities. There are cards that buff every card on the board. But and you could actually make a deck that is just there's a 3 cost guy that buffs all vanilla cards, so cards with no abilities. There's a 4 cost guy that buffs all 1 drops, which the drones are. There's a 5 cost guy that buffs every other card on the board. You could do 3, 4, 5, 6 with that. It still sucks.
Yeah.
That is the major issue. Ultron is
Using every other location on every other board seems just seems so I don't know. Seems so
it's
hard to make this good.
it is a 46% win rate card,
Yeah.
0.3% play rate, and negative negative 0.63 cube rate. One of the largest negative cube rates I've actually ever seen. And I think that's what happens. This is another thing where we talk about how stakes
Yeah.
double, right? If your 6 drop, the card you build the deck around, is bad, you end up losing more cubes because you're doing the thing you built your deck to do. It's just not good. And you're sticking in it until turn 6 when those stakes double. It's a very awkward situation.
Yeah, it's like kind of what I was saying, I guess, where like in a vacuum, this turn just matters significantly more than all of the other ones, and like if you just have a bad turn 6, it's like so bad for your overall win rate.
Yep.
Because it's not like about like match win rate anymore. You're like your win rate is in like cubes, right? So like
Yes.
one loss and 1 win in like a match aren't like equivalent. Like if you're like winning 8 cubes when you win and losing 1 when you lose, like you really don't need to win that often.
You do
But
not.
like, but yeah, this card just because I was looking at it first and I was like just it like didn't click to me that they needed to be empty locations. I was like, oh, this card just like seems fine.
Well, I
Like
mean, like, they don't need
I
to be empty. They
was,
just need to, like, it won't be 4. Like, if you filled up 2 spots,
yeah,
it'll be 2. If you filled up 3 spots, it'll be 1, right? Like,
yeah.
it's not a
It's
16
not
power
just
guy,
a
though.
it's
Yeah.
not just a 16 power, yeah. And
No.
even then, I mean, I don't. The other two 6 costs I've seen are just like
Yeah.
win this board on the spot, and I feel like it would be very hard for this card to ever be better than one of those. Like even though they're in obviously different archetypes, but like
Actually, if he did do the thing you thought he did, was just like 8 on one location, 4 and 4 on another, I think he'd be very good. Honestly, I
yeah,
think
I
that'd
was
be very
like
good.
the card just seemed that was what I thought, and I was like, oh, this card just looks good, and then you were like, oh, they have to be their locations on the other boards, and I was like, oh, this is bad. Like
Yes.
this is like seems like one of those fringy ones where it's like I feel like it has it could be good, but it's just not. And it's
Yeah, that's
very
accurate. Yes. It could be good, but it's just not. That's pretty much it.
yeah. Again, I feel like it's something they could print some stuff where it would make that card broken, but it would be very very difficult for it to be broken.
This is Shang-Chi. 4 cost, 3 power. On reveal, destroy all enemy cards here that have 10 or more power.
Okay, so this is the Marvel Snap Big Game Hunter, right?
Yeah.
I would lean towards this be all enemy cards here. That means on in that one board, I
Yeah.
assume.
You're using board to be a synonym for location, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, then
Sorry.
yeah.
Like, um, I again, I guess this revolves around priority quite a bunch because if they're just slamming blob and you just play this in a 2-drop, it seems like it could be like reasonable. But I feel, oh man, again, it's just a card that you never want to play on. You never want to just slam the card. And I feel like there are a lot of scenarios you would just draw it and you would be like, I really don't want to have this in my hand. So I would lean towards it being like meh. Very metagame dependent cards. Obviously, I feel like these cards always are. I would just say like meh. It's gonna range. This could really be like anywhere from like a 2 out of 10 to like a 9 out of 10. Like I'm like
Okay, so do you remember earlier when I was like I'd give you extra points for identifying the most played card?
this is the most played card.
Yes. This is the
Yeah.
guy. This is a 35.8% play rate, 51.9% win rate, positive 0.11 cubes per game. He is the man, and he has been the man basically ever since he's existed. He's been phenomenal.
Really, wow.
He is
Crazy.
he is Marvel Snap Doomblade. Like remember when we talked
Yeah.
about how like every deck is kind of doing similar stuff, and
Yeah.
that entails sometimes we are all playing big cards. There's a lot of big cards in
Yeah.
Marvel Snap. This guy has a lot of targets. He is very easy to get value out of. Like, yeah, there's some times where it's like, all right, well, maybe he's not the best tech card to run. Maybe you don't want BGH. You want something that answers some other specific problem instead. But
Yeah, in my mind, I was just like, this is just like a tech card, and it's so hard for like main decking tech cards.
nope.
These are like the hardest cards I feel like to evaluate. Like it's coming from another card game, and then I remember learning other card games as well, like trying to evaluate these kinds of cards, and it's so difficult because it's like, well, it's so like context driven, right?
Yeah.
Like it's these cards are always either just like broken or they're just like
Nah,
you
he
know,
is
like
the man. The
I
most
guess
played card at high levels of Marvel Snap. Not even
yeah,
close.
it's not unsurprising to me.
There is no
Um,
other card that is above a 30% play rate in
I
this
was gonna
sample.
say in a game where it sounds like card like just removal in general isn't very like
Yep.
widespread. So like just inside of that alone,
Yeah. If they
because
made
you just
Doomblade on a dude, like if they made Ravenous Chupacabra, it would be the best card in Marvel Snap.
yeah, that's not that surprising to me. I mean, that card was good anyway. Like,
Sure, but it would
so
be like
like
there's no
it
actual
would be
targeted removal. Like you can't pick a guy to
yeah.
kill. The only way you can pick
This
a
is
guy
like
to
the closest
kill
thing.
is with this.
This is the closest thing to it. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, yeah. I never would have. I probably would have ended up on Miss Marvel being the best. Or
She is like probably like I
with
wouldn't
no
blame you for that. She's like third or fourth in
with
terms of
no
play rate.
context, I would have ended up on the 2-2.
Oh, Zabu? Yeah.
Yeah.
Kang the Conqueror. 5-0 on reveal. Look at what your opponent did, then restart the turn without Kang.
Wow, this looks like such a meme card. Like this is this is like I looked at this immediately and I was like, "There's no way this can be good." But I feel like there are scenarios where this could end up being like incredibly broken. Um, this is a weird one.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea how good like a time warp effect would be in this game. Um, look at what your opponent did. I mean, a lot of the times I feel like people are just going to be playing minions. You don't get, there's no like, you're not like thought seizing or anything, right? Like you don't see the hand or anything. You literally
No.
just see the card they
You
played.
see what they played.
Okay, and then you're restarting the turn. It reverts the board state to before they played that card, or it.
Correct.
Okay, and then they get the turn again, or they skip a turn.
No, they get the turn
These
again.
are Okay, these are all like very important. Because if it's just a skip a turn for your opponent, then I
Yeah,
was
no,
like,
he'd be broken if that's what he was. That's not
yeah,
what he
I was
is.
like, this is like insane. This seems terrible, right? There's no way this card could be good.
Yeah, it's ass. This guy
Yeah, there's
sucks.
no way this can be good.
He has one of the most confusing stat lines in the entire world, though. All right, you ready for
Yeah.
this stat line? 0.3% play rate, 49.8% win rate, but he's positive 0.15 cubes. Do you know why?
Is there like some guy one tricking this deck
No.
and
What
streaming
you
it or
do
something?
with Kang, this is the only way you really get value out of Kang, is you snap, then play Kang, and they think it's a real snap. But then Kang comes out and returns the game back to before you snap. So you get like a free bluff. So he has this positive cube rate, but he sucks because of
That's
the
absurd.
Kang bluff snap. It's so sick.
That's this. When I like looked at this card immediately, I'm like, this like seems like one of these decks where like people would donate to you on Twitch to try and get you to play a deck with him in.
It's a little like that. Yeah, no. He's a very funny card. I enjoy him existing, but I also think it's very good that he's not very good because what
Yeah,
he
I
does
saw
do,
it and immediately was like, this is just like a meme card, right? Like,
yeah.
I was
If he was
just,
good, it would be a nightmare.
this would be like the most unfun thing to ever exist in a card game if it was like outside of like Nexus of Fate, maybe like this would be like
It's
the worst
actually
thing ever.
it's increased in value, right? Because it's like outside of like Nexus of Fate,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
But Marvel Snap only has 6 turns, and it's
I was gonna say,
specifically
in a
designed to
game-
be a short game. And so
Yeah.
it's like
In a
annoying
game,
in multiple ways.
In a game where your like turns are limited.
Yeah.
That's why I was like trying to work out because I was like, okay, there's like a world where I'm like misinterpreting this and it like skips a turn, and if it makes them skip a turn, then it's like it's like insane, obviously.
Yes.
But I was like, there's no way it could possibly be.
This is Galactus. 6 cost, 5 power. On reveal, if you're winning this location and it is your only card here, destroy all other locations. Heads up, your foot is in the screen.
Oh, sorry.
Gonna restart that one.
Yeah. I was like,
This is Galactus. 6 cost, 5 power. On reveal, if you're winning this location and it is your only card here, destroy all other locations. They go away. They are not counted in scoring. Only this location matters.
Ass. I don't know. This card looks. Immediate thought was this is terrible. I feel like this is as a 6 cost, having no other card there and winning the location seems incredibly hard to do.
That is correct. I mean, like, there are things that you can do, right? The way this guy typically has worked is through ramping him out. So you do like something that accelerates you. You play him on 5, and then you play a big guy. The next turn has typically been the way it worked. The thing that really made him annoying was you do the big guy. You get him, and if he worked, you would play a Lith, and then that's just like a mathematical lock, right? Because he only works if you're winning the location. And if you're winning the location, you have priority, and then you play a Lith, and they just immediately lose no matter what they're trying to do. And that's actually when he got nerfed from a 6-7 to a 6-5.
Yeah, this read like one of those cards where I just feel like the effect is so powerful that there's no way they would allow it to be good, because if it was too good and played too often, it's like people would hate the card so much.
Exactly right, actually, because this card used to not have the if you're winning this location requirement, and it was like the most hated card in the game.
Oh yeah, that sounds awful. Yeah,
it was like
sounds so bad.
Everyone hated it so much. It was just like everyone's least favorite thing to exist. It is a card that Ben Brode specifically has called out as the card that he thinks is the most dangerous in the entire game because of how anti-fun it can be. And I think the real thing that this guy does that is super funny to me is he strips like every bit of artifice away from like a card game, right? Where like it literally just becomes like, okay, they're gonna play this guy this turn, and if I guess wrong about where they're putting it, I die immediately, and if I guess right, I win immediately, and that's the entire game.
Yeah, it seems incredibly lame. Like
Yes.
I was like looking at it, I was just like, there's no way this card they just could not make it like to like this could never be like the most played card in the meta game. Like people would just quit the game. Like
This is the card for sickos. Like there's a dedicated cadre. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the word cadre right, whatever. Of Galactus sickos who just love doing this to people. And like typically they're like people who like love things like like feeling in control, right? Knowing that it's locked up. Like we talked about how there's no blue-black control in this game. Galactus is the closest thing you get to that feeling.
yeah, that makes sense. I guess it's like it's the closest thing that we've looked at to what I would consider a traditional control deck card.
Yeah. And
It's
it
just
is the closest thing they will ever let exist, I think.
yeah.
That's actually it. I'm gonna do the
Sweet.
outro here. That's all of it. I had a couple more that I was thinking about asking you about, but we went so in depth on some of these that the video is gonna be long as shit
Yeah.
anyway. So I'm
I have
good
no
with it.
idea how long we've been on call for.
Almost an hour and a half.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm normally,
That's longer than I thought.
yeah. Hey, I mean, I take that as a credit to my conversation skills. I'm just a people person, you know.
I
That's-
find this interesting. I'm like, this is like fun for me.
We'll have you back sometime. Like I've been
Sure.
meaning to like re go through these. Absolutely. I'm gonna do the outro and probably edit. I might leave this in. I don't even really care. Thank you so much to Lewis Spencer, formerly known as Blackout, Seat Story Cup era Hearthstone, Chillwind Yeti era Hearthstone, and current Poker Crusher. Congratulations on your win in Monaco, I believe. I believe that's where it was. I'm not actually sure. And
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You're so cool, man. You're so cool. Well, okay. Thank you so much for guessing these cards. I do have some final questions for you about this game, though. Because I feel like, I'm going to be honest with you, I feel like you picked up on a lot of the dynamics extremely fast. And that is interesting to me in the context of, like, are you going to play this game now? What would it take?
I might try it. I have like so little spare time over the
Mm.
next. I'm like terrified of starting new games because like I know how my personality is.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, like I started playing TFT. I like had to quit. I got to like Grandmaster and like had to quit. Like I was just like spending too much time playing the game.
Yeah.
I'll probably try it out. I mean, I have a few friends that play this, so I'm like not. You would be surprised, I feel like, in the crossover between people. I mean, I guess not.
I'm not surprised at all.
There's a lot of poker people that like try very hard to be good at other card games.
Yeah, I'm not surprised when the crossover goes one way, so I'm not surprised when the crossover goes the other way.
Yeah,
Right? Like Dave
it's
Williams, Efro, like the crossover's gone the other way for a while.
Well, Magic is like
Yeah.
Magic is like a lot of people play Magic, but
yeah,
it's I'm scared of finding an addicting game that I can play on my phone as well.
All right, then stay away from Marvel Snap. That is my lesson to you. Stay away. Do not play this game. Get out. If you are scared of addicting games on your phone, close the video now. Leave. We're done.